Okay, so deep within China's Bayan Karaula Mountains, these really remote, rugged peaks, a discovery was made decades ago, the Dropa Stones. And honestly, it's still stirring up debate, challenging history.
It really does. We're talking about a potential, ancient alien encounter.
Exactly. That's what we're diving into today. The story of these stones, hundreds of them apparently, stone discs covered in these microscopic symbols found hidden away in some cave.
And for a lot of people, these aren't just symbols. They think it's a record, maybe even a first-hand account.
Right, from beings who, well, supposedly traveled here from the stars.
Yeah.
So for you listening, here's the big question we're tackling. Are these stones just, a forgotten piece of ancient human history? Or is it possible they actually record an encounter with? Well, something not from Earth.
Something that happened thousands of years before we even started writing things down.
Precisely. So our mission on this deep dive is to unpack the whole Dropa narrative. We'll look at the discovery itself, the alleged translations, which are pretty wild.
Definitely wild.
The weird science bits about the stones and what it all means if, even a tiny bit of this is true. We'll walk you through the claims, the skepticism, and try to connect the dots.
And what's fascinating right off the bat is how this discovery, something so potentially monumental, could just get sidelined.
Yeah, because of the timing, right?
Exactly. Overshadowed by world events, only to pop back up later with these huge implications.
Okay, let's set the scene. We need to go back to 1938. There's a Chinese archaeologist, Chi Putai, leading a team way out into the Bayan Karaula Mountains, super remote area, China-Tibet border.
And they weren't looking for aliens or anything. It was standard archaeology, searching for caves, signs of early human settlements, that kind of thing.
But what they actually stumbled upon was, well, not standard at all.
Not even close. Inside this cave system, they found rows of skeletons. But these were unusual, really frail-looking, spindly bodies.
Yeah.
But with these disproportionately large heads.
Big heads, okay.
Yeah. Didn't really match the typical human remains anthropologists knew at the time. And buried near them, hundreds of these stone discs.
The Dropa Stones.
The Dropa Stones, each about, say, 9 inches across, with a perfect hole drilled right in the middle. Kind of like old vinyl records, but stone.
And covered in tiny symbols.
Exactly. Spiraling out from the center hole. Lines of tiny, almost microscopic symbols. Nobody could read them on the spot.
And the craziest part, for me anyway, is that this huge find just got dismissed.
Pretty much. Officials weren't interested. The remains were apparently reburied. The discs got locked away. China was on the brink of war with Japan. Global events just took over.
It really shows how history can just swallow things up sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for years, that's what happened. The stones were basically forgotten, hidden away. But, like you sometimes see with these deep mysteries, the story just wouldn't completely disappear.
Right, it lingered. Until when?
The 60s, yeah. Fast forward to the 1960s. The discs resurface, get pulled out for a closer look. Scholars start thinking, hey, maybe there's something really significant here.
And that brings us to Dr. Sum Nui, is that right?
That's the name associated with the translation, yes. A scientist supposedly in Beijing. The story goes he spent decades poring over these discs trying to crack the code of those spiral symbols.
Decades. Wow. Okay, so what did he supposedly find? What did the symbols say?
Well, according to the accounts of his work, it was basically cosmic tragedy.
That tragedy.
Yeah. The inscriptions apparently told a story of flesh and blood beings from another star system. Their spacecraft crashed in these mountains.
Crash landed.
Roughly 12,000 years ago, according to the translation.
12,000. Wow.
The survivors, the text called them the Dropa. They took refuge in the caves. Described as small, fragile beings, looked really different from the local tribes.
And how did the locals react?
Fear, mostly. Misunderstanding. The story goes the local humans actually hunted them. Many of the Dropa died. Yeah. And the survivors, desperate to leave some record, carved their whole story onto these stone discs.
Okay, wait. If that translation is even close to accurate, that changes everything.
Completely.
First contact wasn't like Roswell in the 40s. It was the Stone Age.
Exactly. Extraterrestrial contact potentially happening deep in our prehistory. It forces you to rethink, well, everything about human origins, our place in the cosmos.
It really does. And it's not just the stones, right? You mentioned local legends.
This is another layer, yeah. Local tribes in that area, the Hams and Dropa tribes, they actually have these old legends that sound surprisingly similar.
Like what?
Stories passed down through generations about small, yellow-skinned people, big heads, thin bodies, who came from the sky.
Came from the sky. Wow.
Initially, the legends say the locals feared them, but some stories also hint at eventual integration, maybe even intermarriage over time.
It's always fascinating how myths might hold echoes of real events, isn't it? Makes you wonder about other old tales.
Definitely. And it gets weirder. Even into the 20th century, there were reports from explorers about finding these isolated groups in the same region.
Recent reports.
Relatively speaking, yeah. Describing people who were distinctly shorter, slighter build, appearance sometimes described as non-human, not really fitting typical Chinese or Tibetan ethnicity.
Could they have been descendants?
That's the tantalizing question. Could these have been descendants of the Dropa survivors? And if so, what happened to them? They seemed to vanish during the upheavals of the 20th century. Assimilated, wiped out,
Well,
or something else.
taken. Wow. The idea that remnants of this ancient encounter might have persisted for so long, it's mind-bending.
And beyond the story itself, the stones themselves are just weird. Physically weird.
How so?
Well, first, the number. Over 700 discs reportedly found. Each one meticulously carved with symbols so small you'd need magnification.
Okay, so precision craftsmanship. What else?
Then there's the material. Later tests on fragments, assuming these tests happened and the reports are accurate, suggested they were made of granite, but with unusually high levels of cobalt and other metals.
Cobalt. Why is that significant?
Because granite with high cobalt content is incredibly hard, like ridiculously hard to carve with any precision, especially using Stone Age tools. You'd expect it to shatter.
So it implies advanced tools or techniques we don't understand.
Something like that. Either the material processing was different or the carving method was far beyond what we'd expect for that era.
Okay, hard stone, tiny symbols. But then there's the electrical charge claim. That sounds really out there.
It is. It's one of the most bizarre elements. The claim is that when some of these discs were placed on a special turntable, like a record player, they emitted a faint electrical pulse or charge.
Like they were storing energy or data.
That's the speculation. Maybe some kind of piezoelectric effect where mechanical stress like a stylus running in a groove generates electricity. It's not typical for natural stone.
So it suggests deliberate design. Not just a carving, but maybe a storage device.
Potentially. Like an ancient hard drive, almost. An alien black box recording their fate, maybe sending out a signal or a warning.
Alien black box.
Yeah.
That's a powerful image. And you know what makes this whole Dropa story really resonate, I think, is that it doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right. It fits into a much larger pattern, doesn't it?
Exactly. This idea of ancient sky beings shows up all over the world.
It really does. You look at the Sumerians, one of the oldest civilizations we know of in Mesopotamia. Their texts are full of the Anunnaki.
Beings who descended from heaven.
Precisely. Or the Dogon tribe in Mali, Africa.
Yeah.
They have this incredibly detailed traditional knowledge about beings from the Sirius star system, knowledge they claim was given to them thousands of years ago.
And even in, say, the Bible, the Nephilim.
Yeah, the Nephilim, often translated as giants or sons of God who came down to earth in ancient times. So you have these stories scattered across cultures and millennia.
And the Dropa Stones, if they were real.
They'd be the first potential piece of tangible, physical evidence supporting all these global myths and legends. It would suggest humanity's story is, well, much bigger and stranger than we thought.
Okay, so if this is potentially so huge physical evidence rewriting history, why isn't it common knowledge? Why aren't these stones in the British Museum or the Smithsonian?
Well, that's where the story gets really murky and frustrating. Because basically the evidence vanished.
Vanished.
The discs themselves, nobody seems to know where they are today. The official story, or the rumored story, is they went to museums in Beijing, but then, poof, removed, hidden, maybe even destroyed.
So no independent verification possible.
Not in the actual artifacts, no. There are photos, but skeptics argue they're poor quality, could be faked. Maybe they're just other artifacts misinterpreted, like bead discs, which are known Chinese artifacts.
Okay, so the physical evidence is missing. What about the people involved? Chi Pute, Dr. Tsum.
Nuri. That's another major sticking point for skeptics. Dr. Tsum, Nui, the supposed translator, the accounts say he was ridiculed, couldn't get his work published, maybe even forced into exile or just disappeared.
Disappeared?
Some versions of the story claim that yes. And crucially, researchers have tried to verify the existence of both Chi Pute and Tsum, Nui, in official Chinese academic or archaeological records, and they've largely drawn a blank. There's no definitive proof these individuals under these names actually existed or held the positions described.
So the names themselves might be made up. part of a hoax.
That's what many critics believe.
Yeah.
That these names were added to give the story a veneer of authenticity. It's a common feature in elaborate legends or hoaxes.
Yet there's still those whispers, right? About Soviet scientists studying them during the Cold War.
Yes, that rumor persists. That the Soviets got hold of some disks, maybe through back channels, and allegedly confirmed the strange electromagnetic properties. But again, it's rumor, no hard proof.
It just makes you wonder, though. If it were real, why suppress it?
Well, think about the implications. It rewrites human history, theology, science, everything. It proves we're not alone, maybe never have been. That contact isn't some sci-fi future, it's potentially an ancient memory. That's disruptive, to say the least.
Disruptive is putting it mildly, and if they were stranded aliens, what about their ship?
Another huge question mark. Did the Dropa crash so badly that the ship was obliterated? Are fragments still buried out there in the mountains, waiting for ground-penetrating radar or something?
Or did the survivors use it?
Possibly. Cannibalized it for materials, tools, shelter maybe. Stripped it down over time out of necessity.
Or the conspiracy theory angle.
Right, that maybe the ship or significant parts of it was found, either by ancient peoples or, more likely in this theory, by modern governments who've kept it under wraps. Secretly reverse engineering it, perhaps.
Okay, let's just pause on the story itself for a second. The core narrative. Traveling light years, crashing on what was basically a primitive world back then.
Losing your technology, being stranded.
And being feared by the locals, hunted even. And your only hope of leaving a record is carving tiny symbols onto hundreds of stone discs.
It's an incredibly poignant image, isn't it? The sheer desperation and tragedy of it.
It really is. It's not the typical powerful aliens visiting Earth story.
No, not at all. It's about vulnerability, loss, survival against the odds. It kind of humanizes the idea of extraterrestrials, makes them seem less like gods or monsters and more like lost travelers.
Which might be part of its appeal, but we absolutely have to talk about the skepticism because the arguments against it are strong.
Very strong, and you have to address them. For many researchers, the Dropa Stones story is simply an elaborate, persistent hoax.
Okay, so what are the main points the skeptics make? Let's lay them out.
Number one, as we mentioned,
Yeah.
the complete lack of verifiable physical evidence today. No credible scientist in the West or anywhere really has been able to independently examine these disks. They're just gone or never existed in the form described.
Right. No discs, no proof. What else?
The photos. The few photos that circulate are often blurry, ambiguous. Critics say they could easily be fakes or pictures of known Chinese artifacts called bai discs, ceremonial jade discs that look somewhat similar with central holes.
So misidentification or deliberate faking of images. Got it.
Then there's the origin story itself, the 1938 expedition. Skeptics point to inconsistencies in the accounts and a lack of solid corroborating official Chinese records confirming such a bizarre find at that time.
The paperwork doesn't back it up.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And finally, the names. Chi Putai, Sun Nui. As we discussed, the inability to definitively link these names to real, historically documented individuals is a huge red flag for hoax theorists.
Okay. No verifiable discs, questionable photos, inconsistent records, potentially fictional names. That's a lot of counter evidence.
It is. It's a significant challenge to the story's authenticity.
And yet, the story just refuses to die. It keeps circulating, keeps fascinating people. Why do you think it has such staying power despite all these holes?
I think it taps into something really fundamental. That deep-seated human curiosity about, are we alone? And what are our true origins? It's a narrative that offers a potentially radical answer to those questions.
It's a compelling what if.
Exactly. Even if you dismiss it as fiction, the story itself, the crash, the survivors, the message on stone is incredibly evocative. It captures the imagination in a way that dry historical accounts often don't.
And that makes you wonder, okay, even if it's not a literal message from aliens, what else could these stones or the idea of them represent?
That's a great question. Maybe there are symbolic artifacts from a lost human culture we don't understand. The spiral could represent time, cosmic cycles, journeys of the soul, things we see in other ancient cultures.
Or maybe a warning from a human civilization that collapsed.
Possibly. Some kind of cautionary tale etched in stone. But then again, the allure remains that they might be exactly what the story claims.
A literal record. Proof of an alien presence here, 12,000 years ago. Proof that our history is just one small part of a much bigger cosmic drama.
Right. And whether fact or fiction, Dropa Stones have definitely cemented their place in modern mythology. They're right up there with the Nazca lines, the pyramids, Sumerian gods, in the whole ancient astronaut narrative.
But there's something different about the Dropa Stones, isn't there? Compared to, say, giant pyramids.
I think so. Those other examples are often vast, impersonal monuments. The Dropa Stones story feels intimate. It's presented as a diary, a personal message from survivors.
Yeah, it's not about grand structures, it's about individual beings and their fate, which makes it almost more chilling in a way.
Agreed. That personal element gives it a unique and perhaps more haunting resonance.
So, wrapping this up, the Dropa Stones saga, whether it turns out to be a lost chapter of history or an enduring myth, really pushes us to ask some big questions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like, what else might be hidden out there?
Mhm.
In unexplored caves under jungles beneath the sea? What undiscovered evidence could still be waiting?
And maybe more profoundly, how much of our own past have we forgotten? Or how much might have been deliberately ignored or suppressed because it just didn't fit the neat story we like to tell ourselves?
Yeah, the narrative we've constructed.
The Dropa Stones, myth or reality, they hold up this really unsettling possibility that maybe humanity has never truly been alone, that the universe holds secrets about our own ancient origins that are far stranger than we typically imagine.
It forces a reconsideration of our place, our timeline, everything.
It really does. It makes you want to look again at the old myths, the strange artifacts, the whispers from the past, and just wonder what stories are really waiting to be deciphered.